Hey, what are you at, boys? My name is Troy.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome back to Facility D20. This is going to be another D&D encounter video where we talk about naval battles.
Yeah, and the last NCAP adventure for one of the backstories.
Yep, it was the conclusion of multiple sessions to get to this point. So if you watched the last video, it talked about how we got to here. So if you never checked that one out, I'll link it in this video. Yeah. So basically, the setup here was we had a big cliff face with a rocky shoreline, which represented the island where the player characters was.
When we came out of the catacombs from last session.
Yep, that's right. And we had the ghost ship off in the distance, approaching in with the cruise ship kind of getting pincered a little bit, coming down the edges. Mm-hmm. So that was the basic setup here, and we had two 3D printed ships, a SM built terrain piece, and the big blue ocean map, which is mapped by Mars, which we pretty much had out this entire campaign.
Yeah, it's been huge.
Yeah, and that's a 4x6 map. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through some pictures of this setup and let you guys kind of see what we had going on here. Here we go. We used the trusty map by Mars again for this water mat, and this is cliff face that I made at SM and some jagged rocks. I have the build video of this up on my channel if you guys want to check it out. It's made out of plaster, SM, flock, sand. Pretty simple build, but turned out pretty nice. This represents the island that the party was staying on. Then we have the ghost ship. I'll link this STL file in the description below where you guys can find this and print this. This is a pretty cool ship. I got the build video on my channel as well. And here's some shots of the pincer attack during the session when the ghost ship approached. Here we can see the skeleton crew. And I got a couple of action shots from the game coming up. So guys, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and follow along. We do a few of these videos. There's a lot of fun on our channel. We'd love to have you along and drop some comments and smash that like button. Okay, so the first part of this encounter was the ghost ship approach, and as this ghost ship was approaching, I kind of shot out some fog from the fog machine just to give that whole eerie feeling.
Yeah.
If you're using a fog machine, you only shoot it once or twice a night because you'll smoke out the whole room.
Yeah. Being able to cool your fog is huge.
Yeah, I got to get a fog triller. That's going to be a build video coming up soon. Mm-hmm. So basically when you're doing a naval battle, it gets tough because of distances, right? Like we've got a big table and a big map, but still when something's 500, 600, 700, 800 feet away, it gets really tough to represent that on the map. So essentially, even though all the pieces were on the board, for a little while it was theater of mind in a way. It was like, okay, the boat, you see the boat 800 feet away, it sails 120 feet, but the model didn't move.
No.
And then like you guys go to fly out to your ship, the ship is like 200 feet off the shoreline, but you only go like 3 blocks forward to represent.
Yeah, how far you're actually going. Yeah.
So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing a naval battle, that the scope is huge, and there's no way you're going to put down a big enough mat or table.
We'd have to play in a full room.
Yeah. Or you could just scale everything way down.
Yeah.
Scale it down so that the ships are little tiny tokens, and that's how you play it.
And that takes away from it, I find.
I do too. I like the full scale stuff. I consider doing it, but I haven't yet. Maybe if there's ever a big armada.
Finally amass our armada that we're working on.
So eventually, though, the ships started to close in, and then that's when I start to use, okay, well now we're within range, so we'll start using the squares, but still I use every square is 10 feet.
Yeah,
it's the only way really to do it. If not, it just gets everything gets moving too fast and you run out of room real quick.
And to even do every square is 10 feet on a smaller, like one of those fold out draw maps,
yeah,
it still wouldn't be like, because we used the 6x4 mat and 10 spaces just makes it.
Yeah. We had 3 of those Pathfinder flip mats at the start of this campaign, taped together, and we
ran out of room.
We were running out of room constantly, which was a big deal, but it was just got on my nerves a little bit. So basically when this was approaching, the idea here was I was for the first time gave that hard shore. So the ship couldn't make a run for it, and I wanted to have the ship in a pincer attack, like you're just going straight for you. You got nowhere to go.
Oh yeah.
which is what I done as a DM because you guys were away from the ship when the fight started. So I wanted to kind of force the urgency of like, oh, we don't even have a chance to run. There's a fight happening now. Like, we're fucked. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah. we came off the shore. The ship was about to get rammed, and we're like, okay, we're in it now.
Did that come off like with the cliff face? Did you feel like
it felt like we were walking out onto the shoreline, looking out, and we saw our vessel, but then we also saw in the distance a what is the one from the Pirates of the Caribbean? Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, the Flying Dutchman.
It felt like the Flying Dutchman was flying down and about to take our ship, and we're like, uh-oh, we gotta get there, we gotta help them, or they're gonna sink our ship.
And that ship was decked out too with a lot of the upgrades from the Ghost of Saltmarsh book. Watch the build video and I fill you in on some of the extra rules that thing had. So there was a cannonball fight, which I nerfed cannonballs from the DMG. I kind of took a couple of D10s away from them. And I don't have gunpowder in my campaign. So in replacing gunpowder, I put in a couple of D6s for force damage. And all cannons are fired through magical force energy, sort of like a magic missile. Yeah. Because I just didn't want to have black powder in my campaign.
Especially with one of our players.
Yeah.
Our bard has a fascination with gunpowder. And if we gave him access to that, we could be facing C4 charges and whatever else he can make.
It would be ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of got that ruled out. So once that happened, the crew finally boarded the vessel, which was through a fly spell, which was fun. You guys were all flying down on the deck, and our warlock maxed everything out in his cantrip, Eldritch Blast. So he's got the 300-foot Iron Man push beams going on. So which is nowadays level like 13 with maxed out Eldritch Blast. It shone in this encounter.
Oh yeah,
he was blowing skeletons off the deck of that ship for 300 feet away before anybody could even get close. He was just blasting spellcaster and crow's nest.
As soon as it was the monk who shot his bow, and he went to go hit the
dude in the crow's
nest, and he said he reaction cast shield, and you see this arcane light. And it sheens off, and the arrow goes wide, and we're like, he casted what? And then all of a sudden, the warlock pumps up, and he rolled like four natural 20.
4 natural 20. He rolled 3 natural 20s in a row.
Yeah, against that spellcaster, and
I was like, what the fuck?
He ended up shooting him. What was it? He blasted him so many times. As they were approaching,
he blasted him out of the crow's nest.
Yeah, he fell out of the crow's nest and picked him off as he was falling with a natural 20, and like it didn't kill him outright, but it put a beating. Oh yeah,
it pretty much had him screwed before he even got into the fight. And I was like, what is happening with that dice? Like it was just on fire. It was crazy how many natural 20s. It was the same
dice that rolled
over and over and over. So finally, the ship crashed into the cliff. Now, when I wanted to do this, if you look at the ship rules in here, the hull has a threshold. Like it needs, I believe, is like 15 damage. And if you do less than 15 damage, nothing gets through. But because it was a cliff face, I didn't want it to be rolling like crazy amounts of damage here. So I just said, okay, well, it just automatically gets through if you hit a reef, and it does 2d6 damage.
Yeah.
So that's the rule I made there for it, just to make sure that damage did get through, because I wanted to represent you. Yeah, you just ram your ship into a cliff. There's going to be damage. So, which was kind of cool, because you guys are rolled, your stats are so good, I didn't think you were going to crash the ship, but you did crash the ship, which was kind of fun.
We definitely biffed some rolls on that one.
Yeah. So then, all of a sudden, I had layer actions. We were running a Litch. So there was layer actions. The ship itself was the layer. And a whole bunch of fun stuff. But one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have Ghost appear on your ship. Yeah. And the idea here was to make you panicked, because even though the ghost ship was far away,
you still had the control of the undead.
Exactly. And all of a sudden there was ghosts in front of you, and you're like, oh fuck, like where did they come from? Yep. So I had them come up from the lower decks to the upper decks. Yeah. And this is where Man Bun,
our resident cleric,
had a most epic moment.
Yeah, he come up off from down below, and he saw all these specters, and he grabbed his holy symbol, and he just channeled Divinity Destroy Undead, and just cleared the whole deck of all the zombies, just like vaporized them all.
Yep.
And the whole crew was like rallying. They're like, yeah, go man bun. And then the Litch, seeing that was what happened, and kind of like pointed at him, and then man bun exploded.
Yep, he killed him straight out. It was like, I believe it was, what was the spell he used to kill him?
It was a layer action, wasn't it?
It was a layer action, yeah. I think it was a layer action spirits attack, or it was disintegrate or something. Something got him right off the hop. I can't remember
it did
now.
like
But
50-something points of damage.
50-something points of damage. Just killed him. He come up, biggest epic moment, and dead. So we killed one of the NPCs off the ship, which was beloved in a way.
He was definitely a notable NPC.
Yeah, so he got like disintegrated. So that brings us into a good point about running ships in combat. So in the Ghost of Saltmarsh, there's only 2 actions. Take aim, which gives a cannon advantage on shooting, and it also full move ahead, and you roll a d6, and you can go that extra speed for a round. So one thing you're going to know if you're running naval combat is right off the hop, you're going to need more actions than that. We learned our first our first time in a ship.
We because like when we ran it for the first time, and we got to the point where you're like side by along with another ship, we're like, well, we want our crew to come up, and we got fighters on the deck, so like, can we just use them to go over and board and fight? And Troy was like, there's nothing in this. So through the jigs and the reels, we managed to come up with our own special actions for the ships. Like, we can have our crew take our boarding planks and board and throw them over and secure onto the other deck. We can have them board it and fight, and we can do a group check to see if the attack's successful. Also, where we have so many notable NPCs on the boat, and they're pretty much party members in their own right, that as a ship action, Troy allows us to take one crew member and do a specific action. Like, before he died, and before he did the Channel Divinity, we had him come up and cast Lesser Restoration on the Warlock who failed his check to take the Frightened condition away from him.
Yeah. So you're going to have to sit down before you run naval combat, and you're going to have to write out things like that. You're going to have to write out actions for the crew. Mm-hmm. This is great, movement rules and stuff, and ship stats and blocks, but there's just not enough in there about specific actions that the crew, you're going to want your crew to do, because there's going to be like 20 people on the ship. So...
And you can't just have them all background characters.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any logical sense.
If you're on the seas for months at a time, you're going to get to know the people on the boat.
Yeah. So now, after this point, the 2 ships came together, and the party done the crew up action to get them up from down deck, the crew drop plank action, and the crew board action. So all this took about 2 rounds, I believe, 2 or so rounds to accomplish. And it was at this point where the Litch was right up and the 2 boats were side to side. So now what I do with naval combat, when boats are side to side, everything goes back to 5 foot movements. So everybody's condensed in one area and it's 5 foot movements. So you scale back again. Yeah. So you kind of got to keep that in mind, the shifting scale of blocks, and make sure your players understand that. So after that happened, I killed my first PC.
Yep.
And it wasn't, I didn't feel very good about it for a couple of reasons. One, it just sucked. And 2, he wasn't at the table. Mm-hmm. He was Skyping in, and he didn't even get in until after he was dead. So I felt extra bad, but at the end of the day, it was her backstory. It was her ending. So if that character was going to die, Robin...
It was the right time for her
It was the right time to die.
And it wasn't like it was a targeted thing.
No.
He even rolled off. It was all random targets. Whoever was in range got a dice number, and he rolled it. And it just happened to come up Robin.
And Finger of Death, and she already took some damage before then from layer actions and psychic attacks from the ship and stuff like that. So she Finger of Death and dead. And Rose is a zombie.
Yep.
To make the worst of it, no death saves, like dead, a zombie, and now attacking the crew.
Yeah, not only did we lose a PC, we gained an enemy.
Yeah. So this is when the battle, and I was running the Litch from the Monster Manual with 2 changes. One change, I gave him 500 hit points because hit points in the monster manual is totally sucks. Like,
Yeah,
they're
it does
just
not make sense. It's
no,
not balanced well.
after like level 3 or 4, your party, the hit points are useless in the monster manual.
Yeah, you just you can output so much damage in a round. Like,
you'd one-shot the Litch.
Yeah, well,
one round.
We had encounters in campaigns I've ran where I'd taken the actual stat block from a monster. It was the Bailoff, I think I was running. And after the first round of combat, I gave it an extra digit of health because that's how much damage they did in the first round.
Yeah, so you got to keep that in mind if you're running like a big boss battle. The monster manual is not good for hit points, specifically hit points. So, but I did knock off 2 levels of spell slots, so I only maxed him out at level 7 spell slots, and I took away his 8th and 9th spell slot because I felt like he might have been a little bit too much of a challenge on top of the ship.
We almost didn't make it out of this one.
I know. On top of the ship, on top of the 25 skeletons in the ship, on top of the 5 ghosts that attacked. So I thought it would have been a little bit too much. And this was a rough fight. It was probably one of the roughest fights. The NPC died, the player character died, the bard went down a couple of times.
Yeah.
But there was the TSN Turning Point.
Yeah. We managed to take a bit of a turn when I cast Conjure Woodland Beings, and it's the classic Conjure Woodland Beings get 8 sprites and or 8 pixies, and then the 8 pixies cast Polymorph on your party and fly on your party. And then all of a sudden, we're losing characters left and right. And they're like, hey, you know what would fix this situation? If we just had, 6 flying T-Rexes go after the Litch.
6 flying T-Rexes. So after I killed the player character and I felt like I was going to TPK everybody because it wasn't going good for the good guys, 6 flying fucking T-Rexes came out of nowhere and started to fly. So I was totally thrown off guard for that. The ship left.
When the Litch turns and walks away from your party, it's a good feeling as a player.
Yeah, so the ship left, dropped the planks, took half of the crew because they were already boarded, doing their fight actions every round, which is a group check with average hit points. And they left, and then the T-Rexes pursued. And there was a couple of rounds of the Litch, like, disintegrating T-Rexes and just hitting them with, like, ton of bricks, like layer actions. I actually dropped
the bard right
out of the T-Rex form, and I had the Warlock pretty much out of the T-Rex form. When they got there and realized that
the T-Rexes can't hurt him because the Litch was immune to their damage types.
Immune to bludgeoning, immune to piercing.
And
so the T-Rexes just started
magic.
Nope, but they started chomping on the ship and bashing the sails and tearing up the ship.
So we managed to clear out the rest of the Litch's crew while we were T-Rexes.
Yeah.
And then we dropped the T-Rex swarms, and it was just the Litch and us left on the boat.
Yeah, but I think it worked out because the T-Rex soaked up so many big spell slots.
Yeah, it was definitely a big turning point.
Yeah. So then you guys came back into form, and it was still looking rough for you guys. It was still, those layer actions was brutal for the Lich. She's doing 50-something points of damage every turn. Resistances, actions, all of it. But when the monk got off and got into close combat, this is when everything changed.
A series of fortunate and unfortunate rolls.
Yeah. So he literally went up and done flurries of blow and all the monk shit, and he done 3 stunning strikes in a row. I failed with a +9, I believe, to the save. 3 stunning strikes. Then I used 3 legendary resistances in a row to not be stunned, because I knew if I was stunned.
And then he hit him the 4th time, stunning striked him the 4th time,
and I failed the 4th time.
And then he had stunned for 1 round. Yeah. In that 1 round, we managed to stabilize the party. I casted a level 5 healing spirit and picked the bard back up from being unconscious. We managed to stabilize the tethered barbarian that was the Lich had
tethered for half hit points.
Yeah, half hit points damage. And we just started, we went into, patch it up and finish it out mode.
Yeah, so I think that bought you enough time to really, because the barbarian was about to go down, the warlock was about to go down, the bard was down and up a couple of times.
Yep.
And I guess it brings us to healing spirit. That's another
a spell that we have changed from its original iteration.
It's just way too strong.
And it has already been errated, but we've elected to go with our original change because it fits our party.
Yeah, because it errated. We were using it before they errated it.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we do is we gave it
charges equal to 5 plus the druid level.
Yeah.
And that's how we decide how many charges it gets.
So you just count down as you heal.
So I cast the spell and I put like a D10 out, and then I just dial it down.
Yeah. And we're also going to nerf the
Conjure Woodland Beings. I had to do it once. I never planned on using the spell. And then I realized from our last campaign that Troy's wife was playing in that her favorite polymorph was the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Over and over.
He always laughed at me because he's like, "You're just gonna have to deal with a T-Rex. You're gonna have to deal with a T-Rex, Mike." Whenever we're talking about like what we could possibly do in the future, he's like, "It doesn't matter because we have a T-Rex."
Yeah.
Well, I was like, "Guess what, Troy? Well, we got 6
T-Rexes." So it was a lot of fun. It was super memorable. I'll never forget it for sure. But I think moving forward, from a DM point of view, the only reason I want to nerf it is because it's a level 4 spell.
Level 4 spell.
You can do it how many times?
This is like 4 or 5. Or no, I think it's upwards to 6 now.
4, 5, 6 times. Like just flying T-Rexes 4, 5, 6 times every battle if needed, every encounter if wanted. I think it would get super old super fast for everybody involved.
Yeah, it definitely would take away.
But
and the way I did it, the way I casted the spell, I made it so that it was more of I took from Paylor and things, because I took the cleric's holy symbol and I crushed it and I turned that into the pixies.
Yeah.
And I used like the alliance from the Wild Mother and Paylor, and then I made the spell out of it almost.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I plan on my character doing.
No, but it was
for game balance reasons, more or less. But
it was super fun though. It was super fun. My face must have been. I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like,
it was quite funny to see on this side of the table.
So after that, the party clued up and kicked the Litch's ass and pretty much destroyed the ship, which I had crumble and fall to pieces. It was a ghost ship, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it would be cool just to have it fall to pieces. But then you got to do the resurrection.
Yeah, we went and the
cleric was dead, so like using critical rolls, resurrection rules, I pretty much have ruled out because I didn't know what you were going to do. I'm like, well, the cleric just got killed, so
yeah, it's like how are you gonna revive
him, right? You don't have revivify or anything like that, but you did have one spell.
Yeah, so I keep in because I'm the quartermaster of the ship, and I keep in the quartermaster stash the 1,000 gold component for reincarnate. So I went up and I went to the zombie form of Robin, and I killed the zombie form by shoving my sword into its heart and making a cavity, and I put the oils and stuff into the wound and cast reincarnate on it, and it wrapped itself in seaweed.
Yeah, because everything is nautical based for a sea-based campaign.
The whole druid is just nothing but sea creatures and sea spells.
Yeah. So the fun part of that is you don't just come back as whatever you were. You roll a D100 and there's a random table and you just come back as a different race.
Yeah, which is my favorite resurrection spell in the whole game.
Yep. So our player got resurrected, but she went from a high elf, moon elf, down to a
forest gnome. So we had it so that the cocoon, after it pulsed and gave its life-giving powers into it, we had it shrivel and husk.
Yeah.
And then after it shriveled and husk and fell apart, we described how the body had shrunk and the features were different proportioned, and all of a sudden Robin woke up and stood up and everything was at a different eye level.
Yeah, I had her look exactly the same, but in a gnome form, because I thought that would be real fun. And I can't wait, because from the role play side of things and the storyline, there's going to be so much fun I can have with that now.
Yeah.
Because her love interest is definitely going to be like changed a little bit because things went on. There's a few other gnomes on the ship that may now take interest, and and we're gonna have her deal with that, and how her brothers now see her. She's totally changed. I'm curious to how He's going to play her now. If
Yeah.
he's going to want and long to go back to what he was, or he's going to embrace what he is. So that is such a fun spell because it has huge, more so than death. You know, because you got all the same role playing situations if you just resurrected him. Like he died, the traumatic experience, the afterlife side of things, that whole normal thing. But on top of that,
now
you're a different race now. So you're just coming out as a different race.
And you pretty much are reinvented as a whole new person from a gameplay point of view, because all your contacts, everyone you've ever known for the rest of your life, is not going to know you because you're a different race.
She'll recognize her.
Yeah, but there's something's going to happen because you're not the same as you were.
So that's such a fun spell. So guys, that was the Naval Battle. So hope you enjoyed that video, and stick around, hit subscribe. It helps us a lot. Our small YouTube channel is trying to get off the ground here at YouTube to push our content out. And if you like this video, give us a like, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Later, guys.